Admiral Jake Morrison walked slowly into the huge meeting room. His hands were shaking a little, but he tried to hide it. The room was bigger than any building he had ever seen back on Earth. Hundreds of alien creatures sat in tall chairs, all looking at him with strange eyes. Some had fur, some had scales, and some looked like they were made of rocks. All of them were angry. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought in wars and seen terrible things, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He was the first human to ever speak to the Galactic Council. 3 months ago, most people on Earth did not even know aliens existed. Now he was standing in front of representatives from dozens of different worlds. The creature at the front of the room looked like a giant mantis. It spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "Human Morrison, you will tell us what happened. To the Draconian Armada. The galaxy demands answers." Jake cleared his throat. "I can only tell you what we saw from Earth. We are as confused as you are." A creature that looked like a walking tree slammed something on its desk. "Lies! The Draconians were the strongest military force in the galaxy. They had 3,000 warships. They do not just disappear." Jake remembered that day 3 months ago very clearly. He had been on duty at the Earth Defense Station Omega when the alarms started going off. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had been the first to see them on the sensors. "Admiral, you need to see this," Lisa had said. Her face was white as paper. "Something big is coming." Jake had looked at the screen and felt his heart stop. Thousands of dots were appearing near Earth. Each dot was a spaceship bigger than anything humans had ever built. The biggest one was the size of a small city. "How many?" Jake had asked. 3,000 ships, sir. Maybe more." The aliens in the council room were still talking loudly. Jake raised his hand to get their attention. "May I tell you what happened? From our point of view?" The mantis creature nodded. "Speak." Jake took a deep breath. The Draconian fleet appeared on a Tuesday morning at 09:15 our time. We had never seen anything like it. Our biggest warship could have fit inside one of their smallest fighters. We knew we could not fight them. He paused and looked around the room. "The Draconians sent us a message. They said we had one day to surrender or they would destroy our planet. They wanted to take our people as slaves and steal everything valuable from Earth." A blue-skinned alien with 4 arms spoke up. "This is what the Draconians always did. They were unstoppable. What did your leader say?" Jake almost smiled. "President Angela Martinez told them to come and try to take our world if they could." The room went quiet. Many of the aliens looked shocked. The mantis creature leaned forward. "Your leader refused to surrender to the Draconian Armada?" "Yes, she did." "That was suicide," whispered the tree-like alien. "No one fights the Draconians and lives." Jake continued his story. "We prepared for war. Our ships took position around Earth. We knew we would probably all die. But we were not going to give up without a fight. The Draconians seemed amused by our resistance. They moved their fleet closer to Earth. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had been with Jake when they watched the enemy fleet approach. She was one of the bravest people he knew, but even she looked scared. "Sir, they are moving into attack position," she had reported. "All their weapons are charging up." Jake had given orders to all Earth ships to prepare for battle. It would be the shortest war in history, but at least they would show the galaxy that humans did not surrender easily. "What happened next will stay with me forever," Jake told the council. At exactly 14:32 in the afternoon, something impossible occurred. The room was completely silent now. Every alien was listening carefully. The Draconian fleet just vanished. All 3,000 ships, gone in 1 second. No explosion, no bright light, no wreckage floating in space. They were there one moment, and the next moment, there was nothing. Commander Alex Turner had been flying a small fighter near the enemy fleet when it happened. His report still gave Jake chills when he thought about it. "I was maybe 50 kilometers from their flagship," Alex had said later. "It was huge, like a metal mountain floating in space. I could see their weapons getting ready to fire. Then suddenly, empty space. Nothing there at all. It was like they had never existed." The alien council members were talking to each other in excited voices. Jake could not understand their languages, but he could tell they were upset and confused. The mantis creature spoke again. You say they simply disappeared? No trace of what happened to them? That is correct. We checked our sensors many times. We sent ships to where they had been floating. Nothing. Not even small pieces of metal or energy signals that would show they had been destroyed. A small gray alien with big black eyes raised its hand. The Draconians conquered our world 50 years ago. They enslaved millions of my people. How could such a powerful fleet just stop existing? Jake looked at the gray alien with sympathy. I wish I could give you a better answer. All I can tell you is what we observed. Our scientists studied all the data for weeks. They found nothing that explains what happened. Dr. Kevin Brooks had led the investigation team on Earth. He was the smartest person Jake knew, and even he was completely puzzled. Admiral, I have been studying space technology for 30 years, Kevin had told him. What happened to that fleet is impossible according to everything we know about physics. Matter cannot just disappear from the universe. But it had happened. 3,000 Draconian warships had vanished without explanation, and now the galaxy was demanding answers that Earth could not provide. The council meeting was getting louder and more chaotic. Jake realized that many of these aliens had lived in fear of the Draconians for their entire lives. Now that fear was mixed with hope and confusion, he raised his voice to be heard over the noise. Earth had nothing to do with the disappearance of the Draconian fleet. We are just as mystified as all of you, but we are willing to help find answers. The mantis creature looked at him for a long time. Human Morrison, your species may be primitive, but the galaxy will remember that you were brave enough to stand against the Draconians when no one else would. That alone makes you worthy of respect. Jake nodded. He did not mention that Earth might not be as primitive as these aliens believed. Dr. Kevin Brooks sat in his laboratory staring at the computer screen for the 100th time that week. The numbers still made no sense. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the data again. 3 months had passed since the Draconian fleet vanished, but the mystery was getting deeper instead of clearer. Kevin was the head of Earth's Xenobiology Institute. Before the aliens arrived, his job was to study the possibility of life on other planets. Now he was trying to figure out how 3,000 massive spaceships could just stop existing. His assistant, Dr. Rachel Green, walked into the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. Any new ideas? She asked. Kevin shook his head. I have looked at this data 1,000 times. According to our sensors, the Draconian fleet was definitely there. Then at 1432, they were not there. No transition period, no fading away, no movement to another location, just gone. Rachel sat down next to him. What do the alien investigators think? They are as confused as we are, maybe more confused because they knew the Draconians longer than we did. The alien investigation team had arrived on Earth 2 weeks after the disappearance. They came in a huge ship that looked like a crystal palace floating in space. The team was led by Admiral Kexthon from the Zentari Empire. The Zentari looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and silver eyes. They were known throughout the galaxy for being very logical and methodical. Admiral Kexthon had not expected to find Earth still inhabited. According to galactic history, planets that refused to surrender to the Draconians became lifeless rocks within days. Instead, he found a world full of humans going about their normal lives, still confused about what had happened. Lieutenant Commander Mary Sullivan was Earth's official contact with the alien investigators. She had been a Navy officer for 15 years before becoming humanity's first xenodiplomat. Her job was to answer the aliens' questions and help them understand human culture. The Zentari admiral seems frustrated, Mary had told Kevin during one of their meetings. He keeps asking the same questions over and over like he thinks we are hiding something. Kevin understood the admiral's frustration. From his point of view, a primitive species somehow defeated the galaxy's most powerful military force. That would be like ants destroying a battle tank. The investigation team had brought equipment that was far more advanced than anything humans possessed. They scanned Earth's orbit for days, looking for any trace of what had happened to the Draconian fleet. Their sensors could detect individual atoms floating in space, but they found nothing. Commander Alex Turner had been interviewed by the alien investigators many times. He was the only human who had been close enough to see the disappearance clearly. Each time he told his story, the aliens became more puzzled. "I was in my fighter about 50 kilometers from their flagship," Alex explained to Admiral Kexthan during one interview. "The Shadow Claw was the biggest thing I had ever seen. It was like a metal city with thousands of weapons pointing at Earth." Admiral Kexthan listened carefully. His silver eyes never blinked. "Describe exactly what you observed when the fleet vanished." Alex took a deep breath. "1 second, I was looking at this massive ship that blocked out the stars behind it. The next second, I was looking at empty space, no flash of light, no sound, no explosion. It was like someone had just turned off a giant television screen." "Did you detect any energy signatures before the disappearance?" "No, sir. My instruments showed normal readings right up until the moment they vanished. Then suddenly all my sensors were reading empty space where the fleet had been." The Zentari admiral made notes on a device that looked like a piece of living glass. "This is unprecedented in galactic history. Entire fleets do not simply cease to exist." Other members of the investigation team were studying different aspects of the mystery. Dr. Zektor, a scientist from the Vegan Collective, was analyzing the gravitational effects. The Vegans were crystalline beings who thought in mathematical equations instead of words. Dr. Zektor had discovered something interesting. The gravitational disturbance caused by the Draconian fleet did not disappear immediately, the crystal being communicated through a translation device. There was a fading effect that lasted exactly 3.7 seconds. Kevin found this information fascinating. "What does that tell us?" "It suggests the mass of the fleet was removed from normal space gradually, not instantaneously. But our sensors detected no movement or energy discharge during those 3.7 seconds. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had been working with the alien investigators to provide them with all of Earth's sensor data from that day. She was amazed by how advanced their technology was, but also frustrated by their inability to find answers. "They can analyze individual molecules from halfway across the solar system," Lisa told Kevin, "but they cannot figure out what happened to the biggest fleet in galactic history." The investigation expanded beyond Earth's orbit. The aliens sent probe ships to check nearby planets and moons, thinking maybe the Draconian fleet had been moved somewhere else. They found nothing. They also contacted the Draconian Empire to see if the missing fleet had somehow returned home. The response was shocking. The Draconians were in complete panic. They had lost all contact with their most powerful armada and had no idea what had happened to it. Dr. Rachel Green made an interesting observation while studying the communications between Earth and the investigation team. "The aliens seem more afraid of us now than they were before," she told Kevin. "What do you mean?" "Look at how they talk to our officials. Before this happened, they treated us like children who had just learned to walk. Now they are very polite and careful with their words." Kevin realized she was right. The alien investigators were treating humans with a level of respect that had not been there before. It was the kind of respect you show to someone who might be dangerous. Admiral Kexthan had made this clear during a private meeting with Admiral Morrison. "Your species has accomplished something that no other civilization in galactic history has managed," the Zentari said. "You have made the Draconian Armada disappear without a trace. Whether this was intentional or accidental, it changes everything. We had nothing to do with their disappearance," Admiral Morrison had replied. "We are as surprised as everyone else." "Perhaps," Admiral Kexthan said, "but the result is the same. The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted, and Earth is now a planet that cannot be ignored." As the investigation continued, more alien ships arrived in Earth's solar system. Representatives from dozens of species wanted to see the world that had somehow defeated the Draconians. Some came out of curiosity, others out of hope, and a few out of fear. Kevin watched the alien ships through his laboratory window. Each one represented a civilization that was thousands of years older than humanity. Yet here they were, coming to Earth looking for answers that humans could not provide. The mystery of the vanishing Draconian Armada was becoming the most important unsolved puzzle in galactic history. And somehow Earth was at the center of it all. Dr. Kevin Brooks turned back to his computer screen. The data was still the same, still impossible to explain. But somewhere in those numbers was the truth about what had happened. He just had to figure out how to find it. Outside his window, alien ships continued to arrive, and the galaxy continued to wonder how a primitive planet had made the mighty Draconians simply disappear. Senator Ben Carter looked out the window of the human diplomatic ship as it approached Kepler 442b. The planet looked beautiful from space, with blue oceans and white clouds. But Ben knew that beneath those clouds lay the scars of Draconian occupation that had lasted for over a century. Ben was leading humanity's first diplomatic tour of the galaxy. After the mysterious disappearance of the Draconian Armada, dozens of alien species wanted to meet with Earth's representatives. Some were curious, some were hopeful, and some were afraid. Ben's job was to show them that humans came in peace. Captain Danny Richards, commander of the UES Horizon, walked up beside him. "We will be landing in 20 minutes, Senator. The survivors are waiting to meet you." The UES Horizon was humanity's first interstellar diplomatic vessel. It was built using a combination of human engineering and alien technology that had been shared with Earth after the Draconian incident. The ship was not very big, but it could travel between stars faster than any human-built vessel before it. "What do we know about the people on this planet?" Ben asked. Captain Richards checked his notes. "They call themselves the Keplerian Union. They are humanoid, about our size, with green skin and large eyes. The Draconians conquered their world in 1897 by Earth's calendar. Since then, millions of Keplerians have been forced to work in mining camps." Ben felt his stomach tighten. He had read reports about Draconian occupation methods, but seeing the reality would be different. "How many survivors are there?" "About 2 million on this planet. There used to be over 50 million before the Draconians arrived." The ship landed at a spaceport that had clearly seen better days. The buildings were old and damaged, with patches of repair work that looked hastily done. As Ben and his team walked down the ramp, they were met by a group of Keplerian officials. The leader was a tall, thin being with dark green skin and eyes that seemed too large for his face. He bowed slightly when he saw the humans. "Welcome to Kepler 442b. I am Minister Gexlon. We are honored to meet the people who freed us from Draconian rule." Ben held up his hand. "Please understand, Minister, we did not free you from anything. The Draconian fleet disappeared on its own. We had nothing to do with it." Minister Gexlon looked confused. "But they came to attack your world and then vanished. Surely this was your doing." "We honestly do not know what happened to them," Ben replied. "We are investigating the mystery just like everyone else." The Keplerians showed the human delegation around their world. What Ben saw made him feel sick. Entire cities had been destroyed and turned into mining operations. The Draconians had forced the local population to dig up rare metals from deep underground. The working conditions had been terrible, and millions had died from exhaustion, disease, and accidents. Dr. Patricia Hayes, Earth's lead scientist on the diplomatic mission, was taking detailed notes as they toured the ruins. She was working with alien researchers to try to understand how such advanced civilizations could be so cruel to other species. "The Draconians did not see other species as people," Minister Gexlon explained as they walked through an abandoned mining camp. "To them, we were just tools to be used until we broke." Patricia looked at the rusted equipment and empty buildings. "How did your people survive for so long under these conditions?" "Hope," the minister said simply. "We always believed that someday someone would come to help us. We never thought it would be a species as young as yours." The human delegation also visited other worlds that had suffered under Draconian rule. On Proxima Centauri C, they met with the Centaurian Republic, a group of insect-like beings who had managed to maintain an underground resistance for decades. Their cities had been bombed repeatedly by Draconian forces. Ambassador Richter, who looked like a giant ant wearing formal robes, showed them through the ruins of the capital city. "The Draconians attacked us every few years to remind us who was in control," he explained. "They would destroy one of our cities and then demand twice as much tribute the next year." Captain Richards was documenting everything they saw. His reports would be sent back to Earth to help human leaders understand what kind of galaxy they were now part of. "How many species did the Draconians control?" he asked. "At least 40 different worlds," Ambassador Richter replied. "Maybe more. They had been expanding their empire for over 2,000 years. Dr. Patricia Hayes was working closely with alien scientists from the Vegan Collective to analyze data from different Draconian-occupied worlds. The vegans had provided her with advanced analytical equipment that could process information much faster than human computers. "The pattern is always the same," Patricia explained to Ben during one of their evening briefings. "The Draconians would arrive with overwhelming force, destroy any resistance, and then set up mining or manufacturing operations using slave labor." "What did they do with all the resources they took?" Ben asked. "Built more warships. Their entire economy was based on conquest and expansion. They needed to keep growing or their system would collapse." The diplomatic tour continued to other liberated worlds. On each planet, the humans found the same story repeated. Draconian conquest, years of brutal occupation, and then sudden freedom when the Armada disappeared. What surprised Ben was how these different species were starting to work together. Without the Draconians to fear, former enemies were becoming allies. The Keplerians were sharing mining technology with the Centaurians. The Vegans were helping both species rebuild their cities. "Something interesting is happening," Ben told Captain Richards as they traveled between worlds. "These species are forming their own alliances. They do not want to be helpless when the next threat comes along." "Do you think the Draconians will come back?" Danny asked. "I do not know, but these people are not taking any chances." On their last stop, they visited the world of Tau Ceti, home to the Cetian Federation. The Cetians looked almost human except for their silver skin and white hair. They had been conquered by the Draconians only 20 years earlier, so their memories of freedom were still fresh. President Velara of the Cetian Federation met with Ben in the ruins of their former capital. "Senator Carter, we want to form an alliance with Earth. We believe that together, our species can protect each other from future threats." Ben was careful with his answer. "Earth is interested in peaceful cooperation with all species, but we cannot make promises about military protection." "We understand," President Velara said, "but we also understand that your world has capabilities that the rest of the galaxy does not. Whether you use them against the Draconians or not, the fact remains that the most powerful fleet in galactic history disappeared after threatening Earth." As the UES Horizon headed back toward Earth, Ben thought about everything they had seen. Dozens of worlds were free from Draconian rule, but they were also scared and vulnerable. They were looking to Earth for leadership and protection. Dr. Patricia Hayes joined him in the observation lounge. "What are you thinking about, Senator?" "Responsibility," Ben replied. "These species think we are their saviors. They want us to lead them and protect them from future threats. But we do not even know what happened to the Draconian fleet." Patricia nodded. "The galaxy has changed whether we wanted it to or not. Earth is no longer just another small planet. We are seen as a major power now. The question is, what do we do with that power?" Captain Richards entered the lounge with a message from Earth. "Senator, we just received word from Admiral Morrison. 3 more species have requested formal diplomatic relations with Earth. They want to send ambassadors to our planet." Ben sighed. The galaxy was looking to humanity for answers and leadership. The problem was that humans were still trying to figure out the questions. As the UES Horizon jumped to hyperspace for the journey home, Ben wondered if Earth was ready for the responsibility that had been thrust upon it. The disappearance of the Draconian Armada had created a power vacuum in the galaxy, and somehow humanity had been pulled into the center of it. Whether they were ready or not, Earth was about to become a major player in galactic politics. And, somewhere out there, the mystery of what had happened to 3,000 Draconian warships was still waiting to be solved. Dr. Amy Clark stood in the underground laboratory staring at files that made her hands shake. She had been working late again, trying to solve the mystery of the vanishing Draconian fleet. What she had found in the old government archives was not what she expected. It was much worse. Amy was a quantum physicist who specialized in theoretical research about space and time. She had been asked to join the investigation team because her work dealt with impossible things that most scientists said could never happen. Now she was learning that impossible things had been happening on Earth for much longer than anyone knew. The files were marked with security levels she had never seen before. Project Exodus, Project Dimensional Gateway, Project Reality Shift. All of them were dated from the 1970s, decades before humans had any contact with alien species. Someone on Earth had been preparing for this day for over 50 years. Dr. Carol Jenkins walked into the laboratory carrying 2 cups of coffee. Carol was older than Amy, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many secrets. She was the head of the Theoretical Physics Division, and one of the few people who knew about these old projects. "You found them," Carol said quietly, handing Amy a cup of coffee. "Dr. Jenkins, what are these files? Some of this research is impossible. We do not have the technology to do these things." Carol sat down heavily in a chair. "We did not have the technology in the 1970s either, but we knew we would need it someday." Amy looked at the files again. The mathematics were incredibly complex, dealing with theories about parallel dimensions and the structure of reality itself. "Who authorized this research?" "People who were much smarter than the rest of us," Carol replied. "They looked at the stars and realized that Earth would not be alone forever. When we finally met other species, we needed to be ready for anything." The door to the laboratory opened, and General Scott Adams walked in. He was a tall man with silver hair, and the kind of face that had seen too many difficult decisions. Amy had never met him before, but she knew he was in charge of Earth's most secret military projects. "Dr. Clark, I understand you have been reading some interesting files," General Adams said. Amy stood up quickly. "General, I need to know what these projects were really about. Did we have something to do with what happened to the Draconian fleet?" General Adams looked at her for a long moment. "Dr. Clark, what I am about to tell you must never leave this room. The future of humanity may depend on keeping these secrets." He activated a device that made the room completely secure from any listening devices. 53 years ago, a group of scientists and military leaders formed a secret committee. They called it the Planetary Defense Initiative. Their job was to prepare Earth for contact with hostile alien species. Amy felt her heart beating faster. How did they know aliens existed? They did not know for certain, but they understood probability. In a galaxy with billions of stars, Earth could not be the only planet with intelligent life. And if other species were older and more advanced than us, some of them might see humanity as a threat or a resource to be taken. Dr. Carol Jenkins opened one of the files. The committee decided that Earth needed a weapon that could protect us from any possible alien threat, something that would work even against enemies with technology far beyond our own. "What kind of weapon?" Amy asked, though she was beginning to understand. General Adams activated a holographic display. They called it dimensional displacement technology. The theory was that any object, no matter how large or well protected, could be removed from normal space and scattered across parallel dimensions. Amy stared at the display. The mathematics were incredible, but they made sense. This would not destroy the target. It would just make it stop existing in our reality. Exactly. The enemy would be gone, but there would be no explosion, no debris, no evidence that anything had happened. To outside observers, the target would simply vanish. Carol pulled up more files. The project took decades to complete. We had to develop entirely new theories of physics. We had to build machines that could manipulate the fundamental structure of reality itself. "Where are these machines?" Amy asked. General Adams pointed to another display. "Hidden in locations around Earth. Most of them are underground or disguised as other facilities. They have been waiting for 50 years for the day when we would need to use them." Amy realized what they were telling her. "You used this technology on the Draconian fleet." "Yes, we did." The room was quiet for a moment. Amy sat down and tried to process what she had learned. Humanity had not been lucky when the Draconian Armada disappeared. It had been planned and executed with precision that had taken half a century to develop. How many people know about this? She asked. Very few, General Adams replied. Maybe 50 people in the entire world. The scientists who built the technology, the military officers who operated it, and a handful of government leaders. Dr. Carol Jenkins pulled up video footage from the day the Draconians arrived. We tracked their fleet from the moment they entered our solar system. When they took attack positions around Earth, we were ready. The video showed the massive Draconian ships surrounding the planet. Amy could see how hopeless the situation had looked to everyone who did not know about the secret weapon. Commander Eric Thompson was in charge of the operation, General Adams explained. He coordinated the activation of displacement devices located around the world. At exactly 1432, we activated the system. Amy watched the footage. One moment, the Draconian ships were there, weapons charging for an attack on Earth. The next moment, empty space. No transition, no warning, no chance for the aliens to react or escape. Where did they go? Amy asked. Carol looked at her sadly. Scattered across infinite parallel realities. Every ship, every crew member, every piece of equipment was sent to a different dimension. They can never reunite, never find each other, never return to our reality. Amy felt sick. You did not just destroy the Draconian fleet. You condemned millions of beings to an eternity of isolation in empty dimensions. We saved humanity, General Adams said firmly. The Draconians would have killed or enslaved every person on Earth. We did what was necessary to protect our species. But the galactic community thinks it was some kind of accident or mystery. They are investigating, trying to figure out what happened. And they must never learn the truth, General Adams said. If other species discover that Earth has this technology, they will either try to destroy us or force us to share it with them. Either way, humanity loses. Dr. Carol Jenkins closed the files. This is why we brought you into the project, Amy. We need scientists who can help us understand the full implications of what we have done. The technology worked, but we are not sure about all the side effects. Amy looked at the equations again. The mathematics suggested that dimensional displacement was not a perfect process. What kind of side effects? Sometimes we detect strange energy readings in space, Carol explained. Brief moments when our sensors pick up traces of the displaced Draconian ships. It is like they are trying to phase back into our reality but cannot complete the transition. General Adams brought up another display. We think some of the Draconian survivors are still out there, lost between dimensions, trying to find their way home. They pose no immediate threat, but we need to monitor the situation. Amy realized that she was now part of one of the most important secrets in human history. The rest of the galaxy saw Earth as either very lucky or mysteriously powerful. The truth was that humanity had developed technology that could erase entire civilizations from existence. What happens now? She asked. Now we prepare for the future, General Adams said. Other species are starting to see Earth as a major power. Some want to be our allies. Others may decide we are too dangerous to exist. We need to be ready for both possibilities. Dr. Carol Jenkins stood up. Amy, your job is to help us improve the technology and understand its limitations. The dimensional displacement system worked once, but we may need to use it again. Amy looked around the laboratory full of impossible machines and terrible secrets. She had wanted to solve the mystery of the vanishing Draconian Armada. Now she knew the truth, and it was more frightening than anything she had imagined. Somewhere in the infinite expanse of parallel dimensions, millions of Draconian survivors were trapped in realities where they would never see home again, and Earth was responsible for putting them there. The galaxy thought humanity was lucky or blessed. The truth was much darker. Earth had the power to make entire species simply stop existing, and now the hardest part was deciding what to do with that terrible capability. Ambassador Nicole Johnson stood at the podium in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. 6 months had passed since the Draconian Armada disappeared, and the galaxy had changed completely. She was about to give a speech that would shape the future of human relations with every species in known space. Nicole had been a diplomat for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. She was humanity's first permanent representative to the Galactic Council, and every word she spoke would be analyzed by dozens of alien civilizations. Some of them saw Earth as a savior, others as a potential threat. The hall was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. The Zentari Admiral Kexton sat in the front row, his silver eyes watching Nicole carefully. Behind him were delegates from the liberated worlds that had once suffered under Draconian rule. In the back, she could see representatives from species that had remained neutral during the crisis. Fellow members of the Galactic Council, Nicole began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's translation systems. 6 months ago, the Draconian Armada disappeared while threatening Earth. Today, I want to talk about what this means for all of us. She paused and looked around the room. Many of you have asked if humanity was responsible for what happened to the Draconians. I cannot give you a complete answer to that question. What I can tell you is that Earth will defend itself against any threat, using whatever means are necessary. A murmur went through the hall. The aliens understood the implications of her words, even if she had not said them directly. Back on Earth, President Ryan Foster was watching the speech from his office in Washington. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment with his advisors. The decision to reveal humanity's capabilities without giving away specific details had been his. The age of draconian domination is over, Nicole continued. But that does not mean the galaxy is now a safe place. There are other threats out there. Other species that believe conquest is the answer to their problems. Earth proposes a new way forward. She activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. We propose the formation of the Human Protection League, an alliance of species committed to mutual defense and peaceful cooperation. Any world that joins this alliance will be protected from aggression by hostile forces. The reaction was immediate. Representatives from the liberated worlds began talking excitedly among themselves. The neutral species looked concerned. A few delegates from the more aggressive civilizations stood up and walked out of the hall. Captain Helen Parker was commanding the first human patrol fleet when the announcement was made. Her ships were positioned near the former Draconian border, watching for any signs of trouble. The fleet consisted of 12 vessels, each equipped with dimensional displacement technology hidden within conventional-looking weapon systems. Captain, we are receiving multiple communications from alien ships in the area, her communications officer reported. They want to know if the rumors about our weapons are true. Helen looked at the tactical display. 3 different species had sent warships. To test humanity's resolve, they were keeping their distance, but their weapons were armed and ready. Send them a simple message, Helen said. Tell them that Earth's protection extends to all members of the Human Protection League. Any attack on our allies will be considered an attack on Earth itself. The alien ships maintained their positions for several hours, trying to decide what to do. Finally, they began to withdraw. Word was spreading quickly through the galaxy that humanity was not bluffing about its defensive capabilities. On Kepler 442b, Minister Gexlon was meeting with his government council to discuss joining the Human Protection League. The Keplerians had been among the first to express interest in the alliance. The humans saved us from the Draconians, Gexlon told his council. They are offering to protect us from future threats. I believe we should accept their offer. But what do they want in return? Asked one of the council members. Peaceful cooperation and trade agreements. They are not asking for tribute or military bases on our world. They just want us to be allies. Similar discussions were taking place on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear for centuries were being offered protection by a civilization that had somehow made the mighty Draconian Armada simply disappear. Dr. Amy Clark was working in her laboratory when she detected something unusual on the long-range sensors. For just a few seconds, there had been an energy signature that matched Draconian technology. Dr. Jenkins, you need to see this, Amy called to her supervisor. Dr. Carol Jenkins looked at the data. That looks like a Draconian ship trying to phase back into our dimension. Is that possible? The mathematics suggest that some of the displaced matter might occasionally try to return to normal space, but they should not be able to complete the transition. Amy enhanced the sensor data. This signal came from the edge of our solar system, If Draconian survivors are trying to return, they might be getting closer to succeeding. The news was immediately reported to General Scott Adams and the Planetary Defense Committee. Emergency meetings were held to discuss the possibility that some Draconians might find their way back to normal space. If even one Draconian ship returns, they will know what happened to their fleet, General Adams explained to the committee. They will tell the galaxy that Earth has weapons that can erase entire civilizations. Would that be such a bad thing? Asked one of the committee members. Fear of our capabilities might prevent future conflicts. Or it might convince other species that humanity is too dangerous to exist, Adams replied. We need to be prepared for both possibilities. Ambassador Nicole Johnson concluded her speech to the Galactic Council with words that would be remembered for generations. Earth does not seek to rule the galaxy or impose our will on other species. We simply want to live in peace with our neighbors. But we will protect that peace with whatever means are necessary. The applause from the liberated worlds was thunderous. The neutral species remained quiet, still processing what they had heard. The few aggressive civilizations that had stayed in the hall looked angry and concerned. Over the following weeks, 23 different species formally requested membership in the Human Protection League. The Keplerians were the first to sign. The agreement, followed quickly by the Centaurians and several other worlds that had suffered under Draconian rule. President Ryan Foster signed the alliance agreements in a ceremony that was broadcast across the galaxy. Today marks the beginning of a new era, he said. An era where peaceful species can live without fear of conquest or enslavement. Captain Helen Parker's patrol fleet grew to include ships from allied species. The combined fleet was a symbol of the new galactic order, with Earth's mysterious weapons providing the ultimate deterrent against aggression. But in the depths of space, Dr. Amy Clark's sensors continued to detect brief glimpses of Draconian ships trying to phase back into reality. The survivors were still out there, lost between dimensions, searching for a way home. Some said these were just sensor ghosts, echoes of the displacement event that would fade with time. Others believed the Draconians were learning to navigate between realities and might eventually find their way back. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. Earth appeared peaceful and reasonable on the surface, but beneath, that facade was a species capable of making entire fleets simply disappear. The question that haunted alien leaders was not whether humans would use such power again, but what other impossible technologies might be hidden in Earth's secret laboratories. The Human Protection League grew stronger each month, with more species seeking the safety of Earth's protection. The old galactic order, built on fear of Draconian might, had been replaced by a new system based on cooperation and mutual defense. But everyone knew that somewhere in the infinite expanse of parallel dimensions, millions of Draconian survivors were trapped in realities they could never escape. And on Earth, humans continued to guard the terrible secret of how they had put them there. The age of human influence in galactic affairs had begun, not through conquest, but through the demonstration that there were fates worse than death, and humanity had mastered them all.